All right, so for example C, I'm going to go through and make separate videos. One where I go through and solve the inequality to get the two x values, and then separate videos to go ahead and solve using the two different methods, the either sketch and shade or the test values. So this one we're going to go through just how do I solve for x in this inequality, and not the finalizing with the inequality in the interval notation. All right, so the first thing I notice is I have both x squareds and x's, so odds are I'm not going to want to solve by square rooting. So in order to do this, I need to get it to say 0 on one side so I can either solve by factoring or solve with the quadratic formula. So I'm going to choose to take these three terms on the right and move them to the left, because if I do that, by subtracting the 2x squared, I'll still be able, squared, I'll still be able to have a positive x squared, which will be easier to solve in the long run. Okay, so I'm going to subtract over the 2x squared, subtract over the 12x, and also subtract over the 10. And that's going to give me an x squared, a minus 5x, and a minus 6. The inequality was a greater than symbol, and then the right-hand side, everything cancels off, and I'm left with a 0. All right. Now this will solve by factoring. You can also solve with the quadratic formula if you prefer. It's really up to you as to which method makes more sense and which one's more comfortable to you at this point in time. All right. I'm going to solve by factoring so I can review that process, because we are going to be doing a lot of factoring moving forward from here. So to solve a trinomial, or to factor a trinomial rather, we start with a times c. A is the number in front of x squared, that's the 1. C is the constant at the end, negative 6. So I've got negative 6. Now we need to be careful here. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. And looking at that, you could say, well, 1 minus 6 is negative 5. But negative 2 minus 3 is also negative 5. So which is it? We always said that if the top is what we're trying to multiply to is a negative, that means it's like we need them to subtract to this, because one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So we're actually going to do a positive 1 minus 6 is the only way to make this work. If you try it with the 2 and 3, you're going to see that the grouping process ends up not working. Okay? So I'm going to replace that 5x with a positive 1x and a negative 6x. Okay? So I'm going to bring this over here. We're now going to have x squared plus 1x minus 6x minus 6. And I want to factor by grouping from here. So I'm going to split it down the middle. These first two terms have only an x in common, so I factor out the x. That leaves me with an x plus 1. All right, and that's because x times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. Okay? This second set, they both have a 6 involved, and because it starts with a negative, I pull out a negative 6. Negative 6x divided by negative 6 is positive 1x. Negative 6 divided by negative 6 is positive 1. And now the parentheses match. If I had tried this with the 2 and the 3, the parentheses wouldn't match, which means I picked the wrong terms. Okay? So now the factor that's the same gets written one time, and then the GCFs go together from there to give me my other factor. And now this is equal to 0, and I do each factor by itself equal to 0. So I do x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 6 equals 0, subtract over the 1 to get x equals negative 1, and add over the 6 to get x equals 6. So these are the two values that we'll use when we're doing our two different methods.